Hello, welcome to In Conversation. I'm Ron Semenoff, the co-founder of Breathing Life into Ministry. Today I have the great pleasure of discussing a topic that has been a concern of mine for a long time. In my years in ministry, I've met many people who've suffered from fraudsters in one way or another, and also congregations. And today, with my great pleasure, I want to welcome Mr. Gordon Leek, and I'll read it from the screen so I don't get it wrong, the author of Trust Me, Frauds, Schemes, and Scams, and How to Avoid Them.
Good morning, Ron.
Welcome, Gord.
Thank you.
And could you share a little bit about yourself and what led you to write the book?
Well, I was a member of the Calgary Police Service for 26 years. I retired after 26 years. And through my career, I investigated a number of frauds, as most police officers do. And the last part of my career, I was a member of the Commercial Crime Fraud Detail and the Calgary representative for the Alberta Partnership Against Cross-Border Fraud. One of the things I found when I was investigating these frauds and talking to victims and people that were involved in them is they really didn't understand how they were being defrauded, how the schemes were working. So when I retired, I decided that to get this information out, I ended up writing the book Trust Me to try to explain to people using case studies and stories that I've investigated of how these frauds actually work. So it could be used as a tool by family members or other people to start a conversation and make people more aware of how these things actually happen.
So what would be the difference between a fraud and a normal crime?
Okay. Well, when you talk about frauds mean different things to a lot of different people. Quite often we would get phone calls saying I was defrauded, and when you dig into it more, wrong was done to them, but it wasn't really a criminal fraud. When we're talking about criminal fraud, we're talking about a deprivation through deception is basically how we look at it. For example, if you had $100 at home and you had that earmarked to donate to a charity, for example, and somebody broke into your house and stole that $100, well, that's a straight theft. It's, you know, there was a break and enter, or they took it off your desk at work, whatever it happens to be. But if you took that same $100 that you had planned to donate anyway, and somebody comes up to you and said that they're representing a charity or they're fundraising for this specific thing, and that doesn't exist, well, now they've entered put in an element of deception, that they've lied to you, and that's where the fraud comes into. So that's where the difference really comes into play. Is there's that element of deceit to the victim.
The art of deception.
Exactly.
Yeah. So who would be the typical victim of a fraud?
There really isn't a typical victim, and that's the thing. You know, a lot of people, there are frauds and schemes that target certain individuals. Quite often we'll hear on the news of different schemes that seniors are being targeted for various things. There's frauds, though, that target people that have poor credit ratings to try and get them to purchase a credit card where that really doesn't go. There's it almost is limited by your imagination, the different schemes and the different people that target. So individuals and organizations can be targeted as fraud. To say that there's a typical victim and to say there's a typical fraudster really isn't accurate at all.
Just as a Christian, and because I know in ministry and stuff, and we try to be giving and caring for other people, in our ministry and in our work, and just as a human being, would that make us perchance even a little bit more susceptible to fraudsters? Or,
well, I don't think susceptible is the right term. I'd say it would probably make you more of a target for fraudsters. When you have you know, your Christian values, you know, part of that is to help people and to you know, pass it forward, you know, and do good for the community and for people. And so this makes it a very tempting target for a fraudster, either as an individual or as an organization such as the church, because as I said with that original example of that $100, you plan to give that money away. So the fraudster thinks, well, no, why not give it to me?
Yes.
And that's where the target comes into.
Okay. So in your experience, you did actually work with churches and other types of organizations that have been defrauded?
Yes, I've had a few that do, but again, with frauds, one of the problems with investigating frauds, a lot of people feel embarrassed when they do feel fraud, and they've been tricked. This is one of the things that a lot of fraudsters will rely on, and it's no different being the church. They don't want to come across that they've been fooled by anybody, and there's a certain amount of embarrassment, or it could give a bad name to the church. So a lot of times the frauds just don't get investigated.
And then if it's swept under the cover, under the rug, whatever you want to call it, chances are we're not learning from our lessons.
No, we don't. You don't have that opportunity to pass that on and get that information across that these things are happening. Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, it takes a fair amount of courage to actually come forward and say, yes, I was defrauded and this is what happened, so that we can pursue it and deal with it.
So who would be the people within a church congregation who should become more aware of fraud?
Well, actually, I think everybody should be aware of fraud, both from the congregation as a whole on a personal level, because it impacts them directly, as well as the various people and the leaders in the church. When you have a church organization, you have internal funds that are coming in, and you have to be aware of some of the issues that can happen from an internal point of view, and also from an external point of view, where you have people that will approach the church and say that they are looking for assistance for whatever scheme that they're working at the time. So I think everybody in the congregation, to the church leaders, should be aware of and learn about fraud so that they can better prepare for it.
So then everybody from the collection counters, the finance committee, the pastor.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the church is just like another organization that has income coming in and income going out, and when you have that kind of structure, then it does lead to somebody taking advantage.
Mm-hmm. So what can we do about fraud?
Well, there's a number of things that can do. On an individual basis, you can become aware. The purpose why I wrote Trust Me is to make people aware and learn how these schemes work, as well as becoming aware. Talk about it with your friends, with your family members. One of the reasons, again, when I was talking about seniors, a lot of times they feel embarrassed that they've been involved, and they don't want to deny it, or the person has built up a relationship, the fraudster has built up a relationship, so they can't see that this is happening to them. Whereas if you use the book to discuss it with people, you can show how these frauds actually develop. On an organizational level, within the church, things like having safeguards in place, knowing how the money is being brought in, how it's going out, having a proactive plan. What kind of charitable organizations are you going to be donating to, and what kind of money that you'll be doing. So a lot of awareness and a lot of proactive planning could certainly go a long way to stopping and protecting yourselves.
So, policies and procedures that are actually followed.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's often a problem.
Oh, for sure. Lots of times there's easy ways of doing things, and sometimes these policies or procedures that are in place don't seem to make sense to the people who are doing that, but they're generally there for a reason for it. Another thing that people can do for awareness is get involved in various workshops that, that are out there. Again, it's all a matter of getting the information so that you can recognize how these frauds work so that you're better prepared to deal with them when they show up.
Well, thanks, Gord. And your book is available in most major bookstores?
Yes, it is, and chapters as well as online. Through
online.
Different.
Great. And we with Breathing Life into Ministry, together with Gord, will be presenting periodically workshops specifically designed for members of the church, no matter what your position is within the church, to become more and more aware of fraud and fraudsters, and to help prevent that to help to prevent your congregation and yourself from being victim to fraud. To find out when the dates and times are, please check out our website, which is www.breathinglifeintoministry.com, or feel free to email me at info@breathinglifeintoministry.com. Thanks, Gord.
My pleasure.